Okay, so today we'll be looking at measuring angles and drawing angles. So I've got three different types of angles. I've got the acute, the obtuse, and the reflex. So you can use the same method. Obviously, you will be able to find out a right angle because it's just 90 degrees, and if it is a straight line, then it's just a straight line. So looking at the acute angle, what you need to do is make sure you take your protractor. So the point of the angle will need to be at the crosshairs of this. So I just need to make sure I match that up. See, I can't be having the protractor like that. That just makes no sense. What I'm meant to do, mark out that, find the difference. That would just be a little bit silly, and it's just far too much work. Theoretically, you could do it, but I'd rather read off one measurement rather than measuring off two and then going, oh, let me find the difference. Just measure off one, much easier. Okay, so when you've got the crosshairs, just make sure, otherwise I would measure it this way and make sure it starts at the 0 on this side, or I would measure it on the other side, this side, and go against the 0 on the inside, because protractors have 0 to 180 on the outside, they also have 0 to 180 on the inside. Okay, so all you need to do is make sure it starts off at 0, and as long as you do that, you should be fine. So I've got my crosshairs right there at the point. I've got this one starting at 0. So because the 0 starts from the inside, that just means I read from the inside. My measurement will come from the inside. It will kind of be common sense anyway if you're reading it, because this angle is acute, so I'm expecting it to be less than 180. So if I was reading this, I wouldn't expect like an answer of 128. That would just be weird. Okay, but just in case, when people get anxious, obviously they kind of forget themselves and just read off the number closest. So always keep in mind, starts from the 0. So let's just get on with it. You go 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then you take the 50 outside, 1, 2. So that's 52 degrees. Okay, next one, the obtuse, in exactly the same manner. Just going to read it from the other side this time. Some people have a preference. You should be able to do it from both, but if you do have a preference, that's fine. Okay, so in this case, there's my crosshairs. It goes 0. 0 is now on the outside, so I need to read from the outside. If you look at this line is matching up exactly, so I don't actually have to extend the line, but it is matching up exactly with this one, so that's 140 degrees. Okay, but for this one, the line is far too small. Okay, so when we're looking at this, we'll also be extending the line. So when you are looking at this protractor, you will notice the biggest number is 180. Reflex is over 180, so we need to make sure that we find out what to do. Angles around a point, so if you're ever looking at this whole thing, I know that this angle plus this one, both of them together will be 360. So in order to find out this one, I can just use this wonderful tool to find out the smaller angle and then just find the difference. Nice and easy. So match up your crosshairs, pop it in there. 0 is on the inside, so 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Oh, but the line's too short. I did say we had to extend the line and I forgot to do it. My bad, but it's all good. Get your ruler, we need to extend this line. This line, I could kind of guess where it's going, but I don't really want to guess, so I'm going to extend it. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to put the point down, point down, point down. Okay, got it extended. Okay, now I'll do it again. I've got point, 0, there. Excellent. Okay, got the point, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. Go across, it's 1, so that means this is 41 degrees. So if I know the acute angle in there is 41 degrees, I just do 360, take away 41. So whatever I put into the calculator, write that down. Okay, when you write it down, that's called working out. Doesn't matter that you've used a calculator, it's working out. Okay, so this is 319 degrees because I've literally just found the difference. I've taken 360 and I've taken away 41 from it. So So that is my reflex. That is how you go about measuring those angles. So acute, obtuse, pretty straightforward. The reflex just requires an extra step where you're just taking it away. If you do have one of the special protractors that does actually measure out 360, you do need to learn how to use it if you want to do it with the 360 degrees measurement. I don't personally have one, so I can't show you right now, but the 180 degrees on a protractor works perfectly fine. Measure the acute angle, take it away, job done. Okay, so next one, what are we looking at? Okay, so this sheet that I've popped on to the wonderful Google Classroom. So you should have printed out this sheet. So you've got this one and the one after it. It will be a quadrilateral with some green ones on it. I've just drawn this up. So this bad handwriting is mine. It doesn't look like that. I'm just giving you a slight copy of what it looks like. So what you need to do is pause it now and try and see if you can measure all those angles by yourself. I will just literally write the answers in. So pause it, measure them, unpause it, find out the answers. Okay? So this one is 118, this one is 127, this is 59 degrees, this is 56 degrees. Okay, so those should be your 4 angles within there. Obviously your angles will be written out here instead of inside. I've just chosen inside. You can write them inside, outside, doesn't really matter. I usually write them inside because they're interior angles, and you do also have exterior angles, which we're not looking at today, but the exterior angle would then, as the word suggests, be outside the angle. So when I write the angles, I usually write them inside rather than outside. It stops me being confused. Okay, so that's that one. The next one is this one. So this is using a little bit of what you had yesterday and just mixing it in today, saying complete the statements. They've given you the angles. You need to find out what the angles are. Okay, so you can pause now, do it yourself, and then unpause, and then we'll go through the answers. Okay, so when we're doing this, I'm going to do RTS. Okay, there are a lot of angles in here, so I am not going to highlight the entire angle. I'm just going to do the middle one. I'm going to do it in there. So I know it's RTS, so rather than highlighting the whole thing, I'm just going to highlight that angle because that's the angle that it is. Okay, and then do the same for QRS, which is that one. Okay, I believe that is 129, and this one is 41. So you got 41, 129. They are now asking for the sum of SRT and QRT. So when you're looking at this, you can see that SRT is this angle here. QRT is this angle here. They're just asking for the sum. If I add both of those angles together, that is exactly the same as this wonderful pink angle. So I don't even need to work them out. So I don't even need to measure them. I'm just going to put 129 because I already know what it is. Then they say the difference between QST and SQT. Guys, I do use a lot of highlighters. If you are, I'm very much a diagram person, so I like colors. If you are a person that likes the colors, that's fine. You can also use colors. If you're not into colors, don't worry too much about it. Live in your wonderful world with your amazing notes. Okay, so you've got the difference between QST and SQT. So QST is this one here, so it's that angle right there. And then SQT, so SQT, this angle right here. And because I've already done them before, this one is 90 degrees, this one is 28. So it's asking for the difference. 90 take away 28 equals 62. So 62 degrees. Okay, if you got those, huzzah! Okay, at this point, I have actually given you a task This is my very bad drawing of the alien task that I have actually uploaded to Google Classroom. So I just want to quickly go through how you might need to do it. So if you've already understood how to do it, you can just go ahead, do it, pause the video or continue watching and do it after you finish watching the entire video. Your choice entirely. But in regards to this task, you have a little space person in their little wonderful spaceship, obviously fabulous drawing. And then all of these things are asteroids. They are stuck in an asteroid field in order to get through to the other side. They just need to shoot, but they need to know the trajectory of the laser and the actual angle needed. This is there, so when they've got their laser guiding system that goes towards the actual asteroids, their laser guiding system starts from 0 to 180 degrees. They need to find out what angle they need to shoot at to hit those asteroids. So each of these asteroids does have a cross in it, and then all you need to do is just literally make up these angles. So I'm going to put a pencil down there, pencil down there. Once it's touching the ruler, I know that is the line that I want, and then you just measure the angle. You kind of go, oh yes, that's my angle. And then so if I call this A, B, C, D, let's just say A equals your A is not going to be this one because I literally just drew this. That's 13 degrees. Okay, so you would make a list from all the different numbers. You would just write them down, make a little list. So you've got 1 to 15, I believe, on this sheet. And on the more challenging sheet, there is 1 to 20. So I have put 2 sheets. I'm not expecting you to do both of them. I'm otherwise expecting the 0 to 180, which is what this one is. And then the 0 to 360, it was basically called like Alien Blast 360. It goes 0, 180, but then it also goes to 360. So you just need to think about doing your 360, take away the angle that you measure here. Okay. So if you've not done it before and you just want to try out the basics, obviously do the 180 sheet. If you want a bit more of a challenge, do the 360 sheet. I will be uploading answers as well, so you can check them later in the day. So if you want to pause and get on with that, that's fine. I'm just going to carry on, and then we will look at measuring angles. Well, sorry, drawing angles. Just finished measuring angles. Okay, so drawing angles, we've got acute, obtuse, and reflex. So I've just written 3 numbers down. If we'd been in class, obviously I would have asked for some, but we're not, so I just picked my own. Acute, we are all aware it is between 0 and 90. So I just picked a number, chose 43. So I am just initially drawing a line. I am then going to put, this is where my angle is going to start from. You don't have to start at the edge, quite a lot of people do. I just like to have crosshairs. If it was at the edge, I'd put a little crosshair there. I like to have crosshairs because that is exactly where I'm going to put the crosshairs for my protractor down. Okay, so there are different types of protractors. So sometimes you'll see a protractor with this little magnifying glass. I don't know if you can see it. Little magnifying glass in there, that little circle, little magnifying glass. These ones are actually quite nice because you can really get onto the angle, and this one doesn't have it. It's very much basic. The only reason why I prefer using this one over this one is this whole wonderful blue thing. So if I had a line underneath that, I can't really see through that very well. So that's why I usually prefer not to use these, even though I do love those little magnifying glass, that little magnifying glass. I don't like this blue thing, but it came part of the math set, so I've still got it because creature of habit, I still keep part of the math set. Okay, so I'm going to be using this one, but if you do have one of these and you can see through these and you can use them quite well, that's perfectly fine. Use them, there's nothing wrong with them. And if the lines are long enough, it doesn't matter, because as long as you can read on these little degree lines here, then you should be fine. Okay, I think they just put the blue so you can differentiate between the inner arch and the outer arch, just to make it easier for a person that's reading the angle. Okay, but anyway, getting back to this. So I've got my crosshairs. Actually, I'm going to sharpen my pencil a little bit because I think that's a little bit blunt. Because I don't like how fat that point is, so I'm going to sharpen it a little bit. Cool, much nicer. Okay, so I'm not going to work from that one because that doesn't really look that nice. It's a little bit too fat. I prefer like much smaller ones. I'll just do it from the edge this time. So I've got a much neater point. I am now just going to get the crosshairs and match it up. So now I've got the crosshairs exactly where the point of my angle should be. I then go all the way down until I can read 0. I then read from the 0 and go, what angle do I need? I'm going for the acute. So I'll go 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. And then once you get to 40, you do the 1, 2, 3 in there. You've then got 43. Okay, and then you match these up. Okay, I do use protractors quite a bit, so I'm very used to using this as a straight edge. Obviously, if you don't have, some of these protractors actually have a ruler. I don't have a ruler on them. If I did need to measure the edge, I would have had to use the ruler. But because I'm just drawing an angle, I can just use this. It is a straight edge, you can use it as a ruler. Okay, so obtuse. Let's go for the next one. So this is angle A. Let's just call that A. I'm going to call this one B. I'm going to call this one C. So let's just draw another line. This angle, I'm going to put the edge over here. Let's match up those crosshairs. If this seems really easy, that's because it is. Okay, it just takes a little bit of practice, and once you've got it, it'll just stay there forever. Okay, but anyway, match up the crosshairs, go across, you've got the 0, go all the way to 130, and then read it all the way out, and then go, I'm going to add 1 to that because it's 131. Okay, the only thing I'm doing right now is I am lining it up. So I always put the point of my pencil down at the point where the angle should be. I also put it down where I put my pencil. And if my straight edge aligns with my pencil, I know the pencil is going to have a very accurate angle, because you do need to make sure it's within 1 degree. That's the way I draw it. I know a lot of people don't do it that way, but that does also mean I cut down on the inaccuracies that can be made when drawing angles. I have seen people draw an angle of 131 and it came out 134 because they don't line up. They do all the hard work and then they just don't line it up at the end. Okay, so it's a tip if you want one. So when we were measuring angles, we had the reflex. The way to find out the reflex with this wonderful thing was to do 360, take away that angle. We need to do exactly the same when we are drawing. So the first thing I want to do is 360, take away 279. And because my brain is not working very well today, I am just going to use my calculator, which is 81 degrees. So there's a line, there is my point. So I'm going to pop the point down, go across 0, 0, excellent. Okay, so 0, 10, 20, 20, 80, come all the way out, and then add 1 angle across. Okay, so that is 81 degrees, but they have actually asked me for the reflex. I automatically start writing down angles. Just make sure you write down the other angle too, because they've asked you for this one. Mark this one down. Feel free to mark this one down, that's fine. It just shows part of what you did. But the 279 is the important one. If you write too much, it won't matter. If you write too little, it will. Okay, so this is drawing the angles. If you just want to pause sorry, I'll let you know, then you can pause. So all I want you to do is try and see if you can draw the following: an equilateral triangle of 6 centimeters, so you just need to remember what an equilateral is, a square of sides that are 7 centimeters, and then just a little bit of a challenge, a regular hexagon of 5 centimeters. So if you want to pause and try and see if you can draw them, that would be fine. Okay, I actually did it earlier. I wasn't going to do it all on the camera, so I did it earlier. Equilateral triangle, so equilateral, equal sides, equal angles. So I've got 6, 6, 6 here, and then I've got 60 degrees, 60 degrees, 60 degrees. Okay, and then for the square, I just had one side that was 7. I had 2 right angles that I measured out with my trusty protractor, and then 7, 7, and then I matched them up. And then you can always double check to see if the angles up there are 90 degrees as well. For the hexagon, this one was a little bit tricky, but it was fine. So for the hexagon, some of you may know that a hexagon is made of 6 equilateral triangles. So all of these are equilateral. So if you had drawn 60, 60, 60, and then you just add another triangle to this one, add another triangle to this one, then add, and then it just add on 6 triangles, which is quite fun. So you just do it there. You only actually have to go to this point, and then you can literally just connect the lines, and then there'll be your hexagon. There is another way of doing it, so we are going to find another way of doing it. However, this is also a good one to know, because sometimes this is used as a bit of a challenge question, and you need to make sure that you kind of recognize some of the properties that things like hexagons may have. Full of triangles, equilateral triangle, the most amazing shape in the world. Okay, and the final task. Again, I have just drawn a just a mock-up of what I actually popped onto Google Classroom. So sorry, it does look a little bit messy. I was just doing it freehand. Okay, so this is just an example of one of the tasks. There are a couple of them. This one is the easier one, and there are a couple more difficult ones. So this is for the people that do want a bit more challenge. Okay, so when I am drawing this, what they're asking you to do is to draw it to scale. So they've given you the measurements that you need. You need to try and see if you can draw it to scale. And they also tell you that it's symmetrical. So if I was to do this, that means I could draw a line all the way down, and that all the measurements I have on this side are equal to the measurements on this side. So this says 8.5 centimeters, so I know this is also 8.5 centimeters. This says 51 degrees, so I know this one is also 51 degrees. And then you can just keep going down the whole spaceship doing the same thing. So that is for the people that want a little bit of a challenge. But otherwise, that would be the end of the lesson. So if you want to just go through some of those drawing angles, which is tasks like this as a challenge, and you also have the measuring angle challenge as well. So if you want to try both of those, and then just send me a little photo of what you do and tell me what's going on. I'll put some additional worksheets. Those people that prefer the worksheets that are the white rose worksheets, I'm going to pop them on there as well as an option. So if you do just want to work through those kind of worksheets, that's fine. These ones are more challenging, obviously. So if you want to try this, yay. If you want to try those, then you can try those too. I will pop the answers up before the end of day, so you can always check them out. Any questions? Let me know. Any kind of questions anyone could possibly answer, then obviously pop them in the stream, and then people could try and see if they can answer. Okay? Have a great day. Bye.